What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Schenk, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Anthony Trucks. Anthony Trucks today is a former NFL player, father of three, seven-figure gym owner, author, speaker, six-figure consultant, and a shift coach for those out there looking to shift in their life. But it wasn't always like that. You see, in this episode, you're going to hear Anthony's journey of overcoming adversity, how he overcame the fact that his wife had an affair and how he was able to go and still repair that relationship and form such a strong bond with her today. We also talk about his young life in and out of foster homes, being beaten and abused, and how he overcame that to create the life of his dreams. You see, Anthony is somebody who makes no excuses. He's somebody who understands that it's the work that we put into our life that creates the life that we truly desire. And in this episode, Anthony breaks down some tips for you guys to implement into your life in order to create the life of your dreams. I really think you guys are going to love this episode. I really enjoyed connecting with Anthony. Also, make sure to check out his podcast, All Shift, as I'm going to be a guest on his in a couple weeks. And we had a ton of fun on that conversation over there. Now, before we get to the episode, I want to remind you guys that Growth Now Movement Live is right around the corner. You want to grab your tickets today, gnmlive.com. Learn to level up your life in all areas, learn to connect, learn to love what you are doing, learn from some amazing speakers and movement makers. It is going to be a game-changing event as it was last year. Head over to gnmlive.com to grab your tickets today. Now, without further ado, let's get into the episode with Anthony Trucks. Anthony, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so it's funny. We got connected by somebody who listens to both of our shows, and a huge supporter of mine, which I feel blessed. But we were then back-to-back guests on Joel Marion's Born to Impact. I think we were back-to-back. You had 2 episodes. I didn't talk enough. I had 1 episode. It was weird how the whole planets align, and here we are, man. And when I heard your story, I was blown away. Like, your story fits exactly what we talk about on the show. It's about overcoming adversity and growth. And I'm really excited to share that and what your message now that you share with the world with my audience. And so why don't we just start with who's Anthony Trucks today? And then we can unpack how you got there.
Go backwards, back into time. So Anthony Trucks is I'm a man of God. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a thrill seeker, but not like jump off of bridges and then jump out of airplanes. I'm like a life thrill seeker. I want to see what in the world is out there that I'm supposed to do that I don't know yet. I'm a coach. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm just a guy. I guess the best way, I am a regular dude. I'm a dad. I'm a regular dude, but I have a really irregular desire to leave a crazy impact on the world. So I'm not trying to be this guy that's like separated from society. I want to live in the thing that I live in, but make it better while I'm here.
Yeah, and it's funny, you talk about wanting to make an impact on the world, and out of these conversations that I've had with guys like, Ed Milet and Justin Wren and all these incredible people, they all want to make an impact on the world. But a lot of that starts with pain, right? I feel like the people who want to do good for the world have been through a lot of shit. And you're somebody who I'm going to label as that because we're going to get into it. And I mean, for you, it's just one thing after another. Why don't we dive into your journey of understanding that, hey, you may be here to impact the world?
Yeah. For me, I realized in my life that there's times when I look back on the pain and I don't like it, right? I'll tell you what it is in a minute, but I don't like it, but I appreciate it. I think every single little step of the way was given to me reluctantly, obviously, but it was done so that I could overcome it, so I could come out of it and teach something. Because there's a lot of people that experience hardship and come out of hardship, but they're not all meant to share it. They're not all meant to learn or to teach from it. They're just meant to have experienced it. I believe I was a person, and maybe it's a personal belief or a faith belief, but I think the abilities God gave me have allowed me to do something with that pain. I tell everybody I'm God's pincushion. If you think about this, it's a pincushion, like the little red balls back in the day, grab my head. And, well, whenever you have this pin. It's made to hold needles, these things that could prick and cause pain. And it holds all of these needles. And you can choose to do one of two things with the needle. You can pull the needle out. I can poke you with it because I was hurt. I had pain. I can poke you with it. Or I can thread the needle and weave a tapestry that can protect and cover and warm somebody. And so I look at all these little pins of my life and I use them more to weave a blanket of care and love of the world as opposed to poke people with it. So if you go back to my beginning, the beginning of my life, 3 years old, I just remember, in the front of a room somewhere in an apartment I was living with my mom. I had 3 siblings, just my name being called. And I walked to the back of the apartment. I look out and my mom's sitting there crying, standing next to a strange woman. And so she calls me over, gives me a kiss, takes my right hand, hands it to this lady. This lady drags me off to this black Crown Victoria, and that's my entrance into the foster care system.
Oh my God.
So it's those moments of like looking back on it, like complete confusion, stress, anxiety, fear, because I don't know what's going on. Get in this car, I see my siblings, everyone's crying, and we get, driven off. And so that time frame in the foster care system, it's called a paycheck, which essentially, sadly, is as long as you don't die, there's no TV, there's no videos, there's no phones, there's no cell phones. As long as you don't die, all's right in the world, right? So they make you look good in the day somebody comes and checks, and then I wouldn't get fed, I'd get beaten, I'd starve, like all this, put in shopping carts, pushed down hills, forced to lick the bottom of people's shoes. It's really weird things. Like I had to earn my dinner on most nights at one of the houses by being thrown into a chicken coop and forced to chase the chickens. And if I caught one, I could eat that night. And I rarely ate. I mean, it's so just a lot of heinous stuff. And that was all before 6 years old. So like I'm still a child baby, And so at 6 years old, I'm a really separate human in terms of like, I don't trust anybody. I'm skittish. I'm scared. I'm angry. I'm just a whole lot of all wrapped into one. And I don't have my mom. I don't know my siblings, where they're at. And so 6 years old, something unique happens is I get picked up and dropped off at a house that is my family to this day. The unique thing is I'm the only black person in an all white family. So I had, this weird kind of struggle of like, who is Anthony? I'm this foster kid that doesn't belong. I'm this kid that doesn't look like this family doesn't belong. Grew up really poor, like as you did. I didn't have much. Like we legitimately, like we had roaches in the garage. We had rats in the pantry. Like we just didn't have food. I used to get my clothes out of this black plastic bag in the middle of the hallway that was so wrinkled you couldn't read the logo sometimes, like the words. It was just bad.
Yeah.
And at school, I was bad. My first foster dad was a drunk, used to beat my mom. So I would, like go to school as an escape, but I'd act up in school. I'd be scared to go home. So like I had this weird walkway between the school and my house that went underneath the freeway. And I would walk this little tunnel and I would just walk it back and forth as long as I could to not have to go to either place where I felt unsafe or felt unloved or unaccepted. So that was my childhood, man. And then, fast forward 11 years of dealing with a crazy real mom, a crazy, foster family.
So she was still in your life during all this.
Yeah. She had what's called parental rights. So she could choose what I couldn't do, even though she didn't live in the house. And she's managed her mental state, not sound. So what happens is she would get to choose like, oh, I don't want him to play sports. No, I don't want him to go on a trip anywhere. So I just had this, I couldn't do anything. They'd take trips and I couldn't go to Disneyland, couldn't go anywhere.
Wow.
And so I eventually got to the point where I really wanted to play football because all my buddies at school were playing football and they'd show up on Friday with the jersey and looking all cool. And then I show up and, and I'm just like, I want to be like these guys. And I go out in the playground and I would dominate them out there. I was like, I just want to go play this game that they play and feel like, I matter in some way.
Yeah. Belong to something.
Yeah. 14 years old, I got up in front of a judge in a courtroom looking at my real mom and said, I no longer want you to be my mother anymore. And it was like the first separation of what's called parental rights, which would allow me to be adopted.
Yeah.
And I got adopted and then the world changed in a unique way.
What did that feel like looking at your mom and saying that? Like, because obviously she caused a lot of pain for you, but at the end of the day, she's still your mom.
Yeah. Well, as humans, this is one thing I had to learn. It took me all these years to get there. Sometimes the thing we want from somebody isn't the thing that we should get from that person. So I wanted love from this person and wanted acceptance from this person. And I was sought it out as much as I could to the extent of like, I'd go back to the house and I'd visitations and try and clean the house, hoping she'd keep me, and I thought that all I wanted to go back to my real mom, and she'd lie and give reasons. And so I was difficult for the foster families for a lot of years because I wanted to be so bad they'd give me back.
Sure.
But I didn't know I didn't need that in my life. And so a lot of us, we run through life right now we're fighting to get something that's going to kill us in the long run. Like we're fighting for it. Like I was fighting for my mom to take me back, but I would have been nothing if I'd have been in her world. And so eventually in that moment, you're asking, what did I feel like then? I felt very angry because I finally at 14 years old was smart enough to see what she'd done all my life. And I was like, man, you took years away from my ability to be something better. And you forced me to be mean and angry to these people that were loving me, and I wouldn't let them love me because of what you were telling me. And so it took me all this time, like what life could have been before if I'd have got it wiser earlier.
Sure.
So in that moment,
at 14, that's a young realization.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely at 14, it was, but I think the problem is in the foster care system, your brain turns on quick because I have to figure out, is this person going to feed me? They're going to beat me? Are they going to hurt me? And it's just survival. Like to this day, I'm really good at reading people's faces. Whether I've met you for the first time, or whatever it is, I just have a real weird knack of getting humanity and people and where you're at internally with stuff. You don't even say with your words, but your eyes are telling me. And I think that was developed just out of sheer survival as a kid. And over the years, just kind of getting better at it, we'll call it.
Sure.
And so, yeah, that was it. So in that moment, man, I was relieved. I was a little angry at her, and it wasn't hard. It was difficult, but it wasn't like this hard thing to do. Like, so I overcame it. And then it opened up a world where for the first time, I now knew that this pillow I woke up on, I get to go to bed on. Stability, the first time. And for me, there's times where I seek stability and times when I don't do well with stability because I don't know what it feels like. And I'm still having trouble as a man settling in with things that are stable. As an entrepreneur, stability is a weird thing, right? But I do well in this space because I don't need it to function. Like I live well below my means, so I don't have to worry about financial stability. But we can pick up as a family and move, and we're fine. Like it's just, we all operate a certain way. But I think that's one of the things that unsettles a lot of people is they're so afraid of change and so afraid of things being unstable that they fight for that stability and they'll give up way too much to get it. And then realize that sometimes you can be stably unhappy, and that's not a place I want to be either.
That's so huge, man. And you talk about how some people are so afraid of change, but because you were forced, and I can relate to this, because you were forced at a young age, just so much change. This is the inevitable. What I can control is myself. The change doesn't matter. And I love all that. And the fact that you learned it at such a young age and you're able to start making that shift for yourself to be like, look, let me create some sort of stability at the age of 14. Like that part blows my mind. I think about me at 14. I look like I was 4. And, that to me is just absolutely crazy. So here you are, you break free from your mom. What's next on this journey? Like we haven't even gotten to the crazy parts. Like you've done some crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. So the next thing is I go do this thing that I want to do for a long time, but to most people it's not a big deal, but I want to play football. Like I want to go and run around and hit people all day long and not get in trouble for it. So I went out and played. In the first year, I was horrible, like really bad. I couldn't tackle anybody. I run around like a crazy man. But again, I'm 14. I'm as much as 7 years behind my peers. And that's kind of the first place that I got this sense of self-worth. For all my life, the word had always told me, Anthony, you're not good enough. You don't matter, whatever it might be. And I believed it. And then I got to go on this football field and feel freedom. And I had this play where I was the receiver on the left side. And, in youth football, you don't throw the ball very much. But I remember there was a ball where it was like a pass called. And so I take off at the left sideline. Ball gets thrown in the air and I run underneath it and I catch that thing. I get tackled pretty quick, but it was like in my head as a little kid, it's like a 100-yard pass, but like more like 20 yards in youth football. And I remember standing up and looking off the sidelines, just cheering. And I was like, that's the first time the world told me that I mattered. And it was a great feeling that I got addicted to. I was like, I want that. I want to know that I matter because I didn't grow up mattering. And there's a good and a bad part of this. For a lot of us, we're always seeking significance. We're seeking to matter. And I think the problem is, and this is what I did, is we put the power of the ability to feel like we matter in the hands of other people. And I say that because at this point in time, I let the crowd determine how I felt about myself based on their cheers and their, what they did. Fast forward a year, I'm in high school, still not doing very good. I'm kind of so I'm a little better. 3 games in, I'm killing it in high school. Freshman football, killing it. I'm a beast, right? I'm catching a touchdown. I'm killing the game. And then I have this game where I drop 3 touchdowns in the end zone. I feel like a loser. It's in cloud 9. I was running the school as a freshman. Everybody knew. And then all of a sudden I dropped these balls. And the next week I go to practice. One of my teammates, I go, catch a ball, drop another one in practice. Guy stands up and Roman says, man, Trucks, you got effing butterfingers. And now what happened was the world took that from me and I felt less than. And the rest of that season was a wash. I pretty much clunked out. I was like, I'm not good enough for this. I'm not going to be anything. Nobody even cares about me. My mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, my adoptive mom. So pretty much the rest of that season, I crapped in the field, man. And it was because I'd let the world determine how I felt about myself. It was super odd. Fast forward, like end of the winter season where the basketball's getting done. I tried basketball and I was pretty much like, I was horrible at basketball. I'm like the one black guy that can't play basketball. But I don't know what it is. I could D you up, bro, but give me the hoop. It's going like in the garbage can somewhere, an accident. It is bad. So
like that might be the only sport we're on the same skill levels.
There you go. Like I'm not built for anything but football. It's super weird. I'm phenomenal at football and everything else. I'd like except for mini golf, smash you in that. So I get to this point where I'm in this class. I'm checked out, man. I'm not doing schoolwork. I'm doing nothing. And I'm sitting in this black parka on my head. I'm in the back corner desk. And there's two girls sitting next to me. And just chatting it up. And one girl's talking to the other girl. And in my head, I'm like, man, I'm just this foster kid. I'm not supposed to do anything great. My mom is sick. I'm the son of a sick kid, sick mom. And just like, hopefully I get by. My brother was running the streets doing craziness. And this girl says to another girl, the really simple statement is, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And it's like that little oh, that's not a big deal. But for me, I heard my excuse out loud. Sometimes when you hear your excuse out loud, you want to throw up as how stupid it sounds. Because some of us will be like, well, I couldn't do that because, I didn't have gas in the car. My tire went flat, or I didn't have the clothes for that, or I couldn't go get that interview because I didn't have, every single thing that they had on that list of what had to be there. And you don't let somebody else hear your excuse. And then you live with that. You live by that. And I was gifted with a moment where I could hear how dumb it sounded and go and check myself and say, dude, are you going to have 30 years from now be the guy that the reason you're in jail or a criminal or a bad dad or a bad husband be because you were in foster care? And it didn't settle with me. And it really was like this weird, gross, man, you can't be that guy, Aunt. And I went home and I made this pact with myself that I was going to be great. And it was only because I had finally been gifted with the ability to hear how stupid of an idea it was that because this one thing happened, that was going to determine the rest of my life. That was just, can't do that. And so what I did is I did this thing that most people don't do. And I decided I was going to give more effort than I could even fathom before I knew I'd be successful. That was the key. I was like, I'm just going to go in here and act as if I'm already the best player on the team. What would the best player on the team do? He'd lift weights. He'd run routes. He'd catch footballs. He would do all this work. And so I just trained like I was the best player on the dang team. And so I went home. Every day I had this football, would throw it in the air, 500 catches, had to get 500 catches. I would run routes. I would do everything. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I'd just be in there. Come the next year, I showed up and I was a monster, dude. I was faster. I was stronger. I was mean. And here was what the gift I gave myself was. I'd put that effort in. And so when I showed up in that moment of competition, me and this guy, you didn't have the right to beat me. I earned this sense of you don't have the right in this moment to take me on and take this away from me. I've done too much of the work in the background, in the dark, when you couldn't see it. For right now, I'm going to take your soul. That was how I thought of it. If you beat me, we got back up. And as much as people say, oh, that's cool. It's it's sports related. No. That's when you sit back and say, I spent too much time writing every page of this book. I spent too much time behind the scenes working on my body. I spent too much time behind the scenes fixing my marriage. I did all this work. You can't take this from me, world. This is mine right now. I've read the books. I've done the miles. I've put the time in. This is mine. And when you have that stance, when that's who you are, you will do that. You'll come out of body and just do stuff that doesn't make logical sense to most people. And you'll succeed because truthfully, success is illogical. Everybody I know succeeded. The success was illogical. Who doesn't make sense that I all of a sudden had this idea and made this, multi-billion-dollar company they call Amazon because I was a guy in a bookstore behind this desk. It doesn't make sense that I put a rocket into space, because I wanted to. I shot my Tesla. These people that it's illogical. And so at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to is you have to do the work before you know you're going to be successful, to where you force yourself to believe it so much that you will never lose. Like you'll never let yourself fall below that level of what you're supposed to have in your life. And that's been the catalyst that pushed me into the next levels of life. And so at that point, it's like, I'm going to just keep pushing, man. I got a college football scholarship. I was high school sweethearts of my wife. I was a homecoming king, which is super weird. I got a scholarship to play football, played in the NFL, was a dad at 20 years old. Like, had to navigate the whole aspect of who am I as a college dad and athlete and student.
Yeah.
Entered the NFL. Third year in my season, I first preseason game tore my shoulder. I watched all my buddies get Super Bowl rings that year with the Steelers. Came home, opened a gym. Had no clue like what in the world I was doing, because business was completely foreign to a former football player. But my ego was like, "You got this, dude. Go do it." So I did, and I almost went bankrupt in the first 9 months. And then one of the biggest things in that point in time happened was I stepped back for a moment and finally asked for help. I think nobody really asks for help. We know we struggle, but the pride and ego of wanting to be self-made, it kills your ability to succeed, bro. So,
which I think is crazy, because again, like you, and we haven't even talked about this, but the name of your podcast and everything you do, you talk about shifts, right? And all shifts, the podcast and all those things. And, you know, when you look at what you've done, like that's a massive shift in your mindset. You went from, I go home and I work my ass off by myself and I create what it is for me, by me. And that's what you thought you could take into business. And then you're like, oh, wait, here, I need to make a shift. I need to ask for help. Whereas on the football field, you had your teammates, but you got that good on your own. You did the extra work on your own. And it's crazy, like when you shift into business and now all of a sudden there's this brand new beast, right?
Yeah, can't do anything.
Yeah. It's so different when you shift into a different medium, right? And when you look at success, you know, my podcast has taken off, but before it took off, it was a year and a half plus of consistent work, showing up, making sure that I was there, getting better at the craft, doing all those things. All of a sudden, like, it was like nonsensical for me to be like, why are people listening to this all over the world? Wait, what? Like, it's weird, right? And so you kind of find yourself here, like you hurt yourself. But by the way, we also glazed over the fact that you made it into the NFL.
Yeah.
When you think about the percentage of football players who make it into the NFL, even from college into the NFL, is mind-boggling.
Yeah. Right? I mean, I glaze over it because it's the one polarizing anchor to who people think I am. And I don't do it on purpose, but I do it on purpose. Because if I go into that aspect and people immediately start separating themselves from like, oh, this guy's like me. And I hate that, because if you know about my life before, even after the fact, you realize that was a blink of an eye for my life. It has almost no definition of who I am. It does and it doesn't. But I don't like people to be like, oh, this guy was an NFL player. I can't do anything like that.
Yeah. You're like, oh, he made it to the NFL. That's why he's been able to build this massive business. That's why he's been able to do all this stuff. Yeah. And that's something that's crazy. But if you look at everything, it's who you were and it's what you pushed through at a younger age that got you to where you are now. Right.
Exactly. And it's all part of the process. I learned through a lot of it. I mean, part of it was, if anything, I think it led to a lot of negative aspects of my life. Like, people think like, oh, NFL, man. Like, so yeah, I understand how to work really hard. I understand how to be uncomfortable. I understand how to sacrifice. I get that stuff. The problem, however, runs into for my life of that was the ego that almost killed me. Legitimately. I'm not even lying. Like, there was fast forward, if you want to go into this part of it. I got done with the NFL. I tore my shoulder and I was a football guy, but I didn't know who Anthony was without football. And we do this in life. A lot of us sell out into something and all of a sudden it's gone. And we didn't just lose that thing, but we lost a piece of us. And so what it ended up boiling into, as my wife is leaving outside, what ended up turning into was now I'm in a situation where, because I don't know who I am, I have to refine this person in a new area. So I was like, I'm going to open this gym and do this gym thing, right? So in doing so, I had 3 kids. I had my wife, but they didn't have dad or husband. And I was trying to sell out. And my ego kept saying, you got this. You're a former NFL guy. Everybody's going to come train with you. You can just work hard. You can figure it out. And that ego led me to neglect my wife, neglect my kids, get to a point where with my wife, pushed my relationship to a horrible point. And then in that point, it was at a level where my wife felt the need to find something that would be better for her. And so she, unfortunately, she made a bad choice and had an affair. And in doing so, it now has removed from me this football thing that was part of me. That's gone. My relationship, which is part of me, that's gone. High school sweetheart's gone. married and everything, my kids now didn't have dad in the capacity of what I never wanted my kids to not, have his dad, like be present. And then the biggest thing for me, all encompassing, was now this family is gone. So my career in football is gone. My business is failing. My family is gone. Like literally that ego of not asking for help led me to a point where I had this pain build up. And in one moment I was like, I can't do this. Drove off, sent a text to my friends and family, said, I no longer, can do this. I just said, please tell my kids who their father was. And I can tie it all back to like me building so hard in one spot that ego led me to almost take my life, because it ruined it. Like was a wrecking ball inside my life. And I didn't even see it going on.
Yeah. And so is that the moment where you asked for help?
Yeah, I was forced to. I mean, I was at this point where the business is all over the place and, and nothing's working. And I asked for help from pastors. I asked for help from business coaches. I asked for help from friends. Like, I just realized, like, I can't do this. Like I had to finally pull the ego back and say, me by myself, my identity at current has got me to a point, which I am now, but I haven't upgraded it, which means it's going to crash like a computer. Like if your identity is stuck at a certain level and you keep crashing, it's because you haven't updated. You haven't got to the next tier. I kind of look at it like a car. Like if you think about a vehicle with a stick shift clutch, some of these people don't know about that. Back in the day, I had a clutch. And it's like if you're in a car and you get in first gear, you press the gas, it accelerates like I did, beginning of my life, took off, right? But then in the first gear, you realize pretty fast, like, hey, I can't go any faster right now. The engine's revving up, that's burning through gas. Like, what do I do? And what ends up happening is the only way to accelerate, go faster without the engine blowing up is to shift gears. Because if you stay here, the engine will explode, you run out of gas, or both. If you shift gears, however, the engine slows down, the gas gets consumed less, and you accelerate. And so I believe like the transmission is your identity. And when you can shift gears there, that's how you see people like, they almost look like, man, they're flowing. How are they going so fast? It looks effortless. Like they're not even giving a lot of energy. No, they're just in fifth gear. You're in first gear still. And so for me, like I understood, like, and I later on figured all this out, but I just pretty much had to shift the next gear. And that next gear was asking for help, getting insight, what I have to do, how do I have to do it, stop the ego from being the big thing in my way. And that's what allowed me to make the shift, to make shift happen in my life is what I call it. And now in my life, I make things happen, dude. It's just a matter of understanding who I want to be, not what I want to have.
I love that line. Understanding who I want to be, not what I want to have. Like that's insanely powerful. And then you can build your life around that, which is incredible. So how do you know now, obviously with the successful business, remarried to your wife,
remarried to my wife, man,
which is amazing.
Thank you.
And you have this family, right? All seems well, right? Business is running. We're good. When do you know to shift again?
I think for me, there's a difference between content and complete. For me, and my wife gets mad that I say this, but I tell her I am not content, but I'm complete. Like I am complete internally. Like I have the love that I love. I have a body I love. I have my family I love. Like my needs are completed, but I'm not content to an extent of like I can sit and hang out. And I'm not content because I know that there's something else. Like there's a new, like every day I wake up, there's a new thought in my head of what could be. I don't chase that with a mindset of I'm unhappy with where I'm at. And so I guess the best way to explain is like there's a new potential. There's another piece inside of me. So there is no enough. There's never going to be like enough, but it's not a bad thing, right? I think for me, the world's always opening up and creating new stuff. And in nowadays world, before any time in our history, travel, communication, connectivity, like there's just so much you can do. We're kind of like these empty teacups. And everybody has a drop of tea in there and they're forgetting you have a whole rest of your cup to fill up. Like, why are you content with the little drop of tea? And it's not to demean you or to make you feel small, because for some people, they just want a drop of tea. Hey, totally cool. But what I know is I want to see what this cup filled up looks like. If I can, because I wasn't supposed to start out this life and I'm already this far ahead, like, why stop?
Yeah.
I'm not, and I don't push forward being pushed by pain. I'm pulled by prosperity and possibility.
Dude, I love that. And so one thing I say all the time is always be happy but never satisfied, which is very much
very similar
what you just said, right? Like I'm happy with everything that's going on in my life right now, but there there's more opportunity, there's more reach, there's more people I can impact, there's more everything that I can create for myself. So why would I just be content and satisfied with just sitting in it? That doesn't make me somebody who's miserable and a curmudgeon. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm happy. It's just so crazy because I spoke recently in Montana at a statewide young professionals event. They talk, and I mentioned that in my talk. And one of the questions was afterwards, well, don't you find yourself to be grumpy because you're never satisfied with anything? And so I literally had to explain myself as far as like, no, I'm the opposite of that, actually. But we have to understand that, like, this, like, I talk with some of the most amazing people in the world. I see the life they live. And I'm not talking about the big house and the fancy cars and all that stuff. I'm not talking about the money. I'm just talking about their access, the life that they can live, the opportunities they create for themselves. Like, that's the kind of thing that I meant. So I loved everything you just said there. So what are you all about now? Obviously, like you said, you got to this shift message, like shifting your life and shifting your gears and all that stuff. Where did that take you now? Because I mean, there are things we didn't talk about. I mean, you were on American Ninja Warrior, television shows, you've done all this crazy stuff. What is that? Is that like, oh, there's an opportunity, I want to go after it? Is that whole contentment thing?
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, people, I think what they confuse is that the destination is the destination, when in fact the destination is the journey. We're all looking for this end result. And like, that's not the place that I want to be comfortable at. Like, I don't want to get to a point and kick my legs up and say, all right, I'm cool. And so what people say is, when's enough and aren't, stressed out. But it's like, I am in love with the destination I have, which is doing work I love. That's my destination. There's a byproduct of that, of really odd, weird things, but that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for, what can I do every day and get up and be fulfilled and filled up by doing something for others that excites me, that challenges me, that scares me, that lights me up, that serves. Like, what could I do? And I just find new ways to do that. So the American Ninja Warrior was like, I'm going to go see if this big former NFL guy can do this. And first former NFL player to hit a buzzer now. Awesome. A week ago, I was almost cast as the lead trainer on The Biggest Loser, but I didn't get that. But it's cool to be in the running. I was one of the last few, like 2 or 3 people.
That's amazing.
I get to travel the world and speak and teach cool stuff. I get to hop on stage in front of thousands of people. It's all these weird things that they technically shouldn't have happened, And so for me, I'm in the destination right now. I get to have a wife that I love who supports my dreams. I get to support hers. I got kids doing cool stuff. I got a family that I like. There's too much of it to enjoy. And the only way I've found to enjoy it is to continue to do more of it. So I'm not chasing something that's unseen. I'm just chasing being able to wake up tomorrow and still do what I'm loving to do today. And that is my destination. And I found that, like, it's kind of like the same concept of shift. Like, I'm in a car. We're all in a car. Identity is like, if you're talking about a vehicle, same metaphors. I'm still driving. Like, the car is made to be on the road, not parked in the driveway. It'll eventually collect dust and be old. Like, my car is on the road and I'm just shifting gears and rolling. And so, like, the gear I'm in now, like, when I look at what I've created, like, I want to get to 6th, 7th, 8th, make a 500th gear, right? Whatever that may be. And the thing I've realized in my life now is the work that I've done on Anthony, of shifting my identity, understand the psychology behind that, the steps behind that, how it gets done. Like, there's like a lot more to it than just a topic. It's a legitimate curriculum. And so what I look at is essentially, there are a lot of people who need that next tier of help. And my next level of success, like, I've got success. I've made the financial success. I've made the business success. I've made the family success. Like, what's the next level of feeling that joy and appreciation and excitement? And I could never find it until I took, like, think about when you get a gift, you get a whole bunch. I got a whole bunch of, brand new iPads. Someone keeps giving it to me. Well, I got 1 iPad. Great. I got 2. Awesome. 2. 7. What do I do with 7 iPads? Like, what? I don't need it. What would I do? Well, the next way to feel great is to see somebody else's eyes light up when I hand them an iPad. Like, oh, thank you. So all these gifts that I've been given, the next level of feeling that same excitement is when I get to give somebody else the same gift of having what I have. So giving some other guy or girl the chance of having a great marriage because they understood what part of their identity had to be shifted, or giving someone the business that creates freedom so they can go to their kids' baseball games, or having the body they want because they finally are the person who's in shape, not somebody who's out of shape trying to do the things an in shape person does. But when you start shifting who you are, you start to have those things. And then I get to sit back and get calls like I got from a client today, like, dude, I killed my speech. I sold all my books and had 15 orders go to Amazon because there just weren't any more. Like, that for me is a better gift than me selling the books right now. Like, it's a way different feel. And that's what I do now. I get to sit back and work with individuals who are executives at literally the number one company in the world. I get to watch moms and dads have better relationships with themselves and their families. I get to see my kids excel. Like, it's just a cool world I get to live in, because I found this little bubble, which I think hasn't been, figured out yet, which is everybody, like, nowadays there's a lot of tools and techniques and systems out there, but the lacking portion is not the tool, the technique, it's the technician. If I give a recipe and all the tools to somebody to bake a cake, but it's like a newborn baby, like, it's going to be cake and flour everywhere. But if I give it to an experienced baker, they make a beautiful cake. And so I'm trying to help create beautiful bakers.
Dude, I love all of this conversation. Like, it's been absolutely amazing. You talked a lot about success and what you were just talking about. And so my question for you is, what's your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Yeah. My definition of success is control. Like, and I don't mean like controlling other people. I just mean, like, if I don't want to do something, I can say I don't want to do that and not do that. That's control. People will also call it freedom, but I think freedom is sometimes misconstrued, because freedom allows you to choose, but you can choose to be in a place where you lose control. Right. So I don't think it's the same thing. So for me, it's I have control of what I want to do, where I want to change things. I get to express myself and control my ideas. And 3 things I do every day. I realize, one, what the control can do. I get to vote for what's important with me in my life with my time. So one of the main things I do is I always set aside time for those who are supposed to be affected positively by my work, my family, my friends. So a lot of people say I work really hard for my family. That's what I used to say. And then I lost them. And so what I realize now is I must vote for that as importance with my time. So my wife and I get up every day. I get the kids to school. When they get home, we play board game. We hang out, regardless of what work's going on. Like, to be honest, we're doing a track workout whenever we're done, which it may, we'll talk, I might have to cut this thing short. My wife's texting me. I forgot what time it was. Nobody tells me sometime. But, like, that's the thing that's important to me. And then so number 1 is I put those people in front, because if I achieve something great while neglecting them, then this isn't fun to excel. And you can't talk about it. I mean, some people go home and they have a great success, but their wife and them are an odds. So who do you share this exciting thing with?
Right.
So I always make sure I give to people in my life in a way that when I win, they want to celebrate my win, and then it all matters. Right. 2 is I make sure that I have a structure for what needs to get done. And I execute it because I love Anthony. What I mean by this is, a lot of people, if you think about somebody you love or who they are, mom, brother, sister, cousin, if they need something of you, you'll go out of your way to get it done. Like, you'll cross bridges, you'll go through burning buildings or run in and save somebody out of this burning building because you love them. But what I find is a lot of people can't even stick to a habit of, going to get a workout every week, or, they can't stick to a habit of, I'm going to read a book every day, or whatever it is. And what I've realized is the reason people don't do that is because they don't love themselves. They may not say it, but your actions say it, because you can't stick to this thing. You can't stick to your diet, to your workouts, to your habits for the business to grow. You can't go out of your comfort zone. So you're showing me that you're not willing to go into a burning building for yourself. And love is emotion that comes from action. And so if you think about the emotion, like, if I punch you in the face, you probably don't love me. Give you a hug, there's some love there. And so what I do is tell people, like, it comes from the actions you give. So what you should do is every day show up and stick to your scheduled structure. That way the actions that you have show every single day that this person's someone to love. And then you will consistently love this person. Because I love my mom because she's always there. I love my brother, he's always there. So do the same thing for yourself. Show up with the structure, follow through. You'll develop this love and care. So the biggest thing is, today, I don't want to let yesterday's Anthony down. So I stick to the whole process no matter what, to make sure today's Anthony is dialed in, because I don't want to let what he did yesterday down. So that's one of the things I do for every day. And the biggest, I guess, for me, the third one is every night I do this gym. No, never mind. So my family, man, they're just all over the place. You see, this is my world, bro. It's every day.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like I shouldn't edit this part out. Like, this is it. This is real life.
This is real life, man. When I got this house, I took over the garage. 3-car garage is my full studio. The problem is they don't know how the front door works, so that's amazing sometimes. So it's like the full decked out everything here, anyways. But it's amazing. Anyways, that being said, is what did I say was the most important? I just said it a second ago, and I lost my train of thought, bro. Where'd it go? Oh, I journal. So that's what I do. I like to keep my brain on point. And so every night I have this app called Day One. Check it out. It's like $35 for the year. They don't pay me for it. They should now. Now you should pay me, people. No, I'm just kidding. But I think it's beautiful to take a chance every day to look at the day as a gift. Because we always say it, life's a gift. But if you don't open the gift, you don't understand what's inside of it, how great it was. So what I do is I journal every night. And a journal for me could be recording, could be typing, put pictures, but it's a Day One app. And I can go in every day. What is like the heart message I took from the day? What did I grab from it? Like I open this present, and then I tell myself, what are 3 things that you learned today? Right. So thing number 1 might be, hey, Aunt, remind your wife that she needs to make sure she doesn't go through the garage whenever you have a podcast going on, a big podcast at that. So. I literally might say that tonight as a one thing I learned, but now what I'm doing is I'm unpacking my day and I'm learning from the day, and that I'm getting the gift to give to myself. That's pretty much it. You'll notice that none of that stuff has to do with like, I got to do business every day. Part of it's all like I have a structure of what I do, how my life runs and operates. But if I just stick to the action, stick to the reason why I'm doing it, and then keep on remembering every night why it's going on, the rest of my life unfolds how it should.
Yeah, dude. And it's so funny. I asked that question because those 3 things are really the only trend. And out of every single person that I've interviewed, the trend is those 3 things is them caring for themselves.
Yeah.
Because we have to understand that we have to fill our cup first. You're talking about the drop in the teacup, right? We have to fill our cup first in order to help others, in order to serve, in order to grow. That's why that question has become, which I didn't even realize that I just randomly started asking it, and it became the most powerful question that I ask, because it shows like, hey, look, take care of yourself first and the rest will follow, which I absolutely love.
Always does.
The conversation has been absolutely amazing. And before we wrap it up, which I finish with the same question with everybody, but before we get there, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they book you to speak? How do they hire you? What's all the good stuff?
Yeah, man, the best place to go, my website's anthonytrucks.com, Instagram at anthonytrucks. You can always send a message there, and either myself or the team will get back to you. And what I do and the work I do, those who are like, hey, I really want to figure out what is the next step for me. We do these freak strategy calls with my team where I've trained them on how to go in and for you unpack what's the limiting factor of your identity? What do you need to upgrade so you can actually close what I call your identity gap? To reach your potential. Like that's the big thing, is what is it that I don't see right now? I need to figure out, and that's trucksteam.com. But yeah, best place, honestly, just Instagram, bro. If you just want to figure out who Anthony is, get to follow me and my weird life, my family, check it out, man.
Awesome, man. I absolutely love it. And like I said, I wrap up every single episode with a specific question. And since this podcast is called the Growth Now Movement, the last question is always, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Biggest moment of growth. Oh, I know that one. So my wife, she had an affair, killed us, broke us up, right? 3 years. I had a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of blame going her way. And then I had a realization that like, she's partying, drinking, doing way too much. And I wanted my kids to have a great mom. And the only way I was going to have a great mom is if she could act better, right? And I'm not saying I was the only proponent to her doing what she did to get us back together. She's grown a lot, but here's where I grew a lot. I had a realization of hurt people. I was hurt. I wanted to shame her, make her feel bad. But what I was doing was like, I planted a seed of, I want you to be better, do this, try to get her to church with me, try to get her to do better. But it's like I planted a seed, but I put a board over the grass. And it's like a seal. She couldn't grow out of that because I kept bearing more weight with shame on this board, and people live in darkness. And so the biggest level of growth for me was realizing if I want my kids to be a great mom, I need her to be able to grow into being a great mom. So I took the board of shame off, and as opposed to stomping on it, I watered it. Like I took blame for me being part of the reason we got to a place where she felt she had to make a choice, right? Because it took 2 people to get to that level. She made a bad choice, but she didn't get there alone. So my growth came in acceptance of, this is some of the things that really hurt early on, was I was to blame for some of my biggest pain. And when I took the ownership of that back, I took back control of it. Whenever we don't take a blame for it, we don't take control because we think we're helpless. And helpless people aren't, joyous, optimistic people. So when I realized, like, dude, I had a part to play in that, I now took back my control with reluctance, but that I could control my actions, my reactions. I could control the fact that I realized that she needed grace more than she needed shame. And it allowed me to grow into a man that was a better dad, a better father, able to listen more, to remove the ego when necessary, and to be the guy I am. So my biggest growth came from my wife having an affair and, in essence, fixing our marriage for the long run. Super weird to hear it like that, right? But that's what it was.
Yeah, man. I love hearing it, man, because, you know, a lot of times our biggest growth comes from what we feel is our darkest moment for ourselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, man, I want to honor you and just thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. But this is what you do all the time, man. You're changing the world with your message, and you took your pain and you turned it into a positive, dude. And I just love everything you're about, dude. And I'm glad we connected, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
We definitely will, man.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.